For the first half of your life, you were taught that the most valuable currency is money or love or the respect of others. But after 40 years on this earth, a different truth begins to dawn on you, cold and clear as a winter morning. The only currency that truly matters is time. And you realize, with a shock that stills your heart, that you have been giving it away for free. Do you agree with that? Write it in the comments. This isn't a sad realization. Don't mistake it for regret. It is the beginning of clarity. It's like you've been walking through a fog for 2 decades, and suddenly the sun burns it away. And for the first time, you see the landscape of your life as it truly is. You start to see people clearly. Before, you saw their potential. You saw the person they could be. You listened to their beautiful words, their grand promises, their heartfelt apologies. You invested your hope in these future versions of them. After 40, you stop seeing potential. You start seeing patterns. You see the man who is always sorry but never changes. You see the friend who is always in crisis, always needing your energy, but is never there when your own well runs dry. You see the colleague who praises you to your face, but subtly undermines you behind your back. Their words become background noise. Their actions become the only language you trust. You realize you cannot build a sturdy house on the flimsy foundation of someone's potential. You can only build on the solid ground of their proven character. And this clarity isn't bitterness, it is wisdom. It is the end of self-deception. You start to see time clearly. In your 20s and 30s, time felt like an infinite flowing river. You could waste a day, a week, a year, and the river would just keep flowing. There was always more. After 40, you understand that time is not a river. It is a reservoir. It has a finite amount of water in it. Every choice you make, every person you give your energy to, every pointless argument you engage in, every moment you spend worrying about things you cannot control, it's a bucket of water taken from that reservoir, and it does not get refilled. Suddenly, the thought of spending an evening with people who drain you or working on a project that deadens your soul becomes physically painful. It's not just a wasted evening, it's a theft from the limited reserves of your life. This makes you fiercely, unapologetically protective of your hours and your days. Not because you are selfish, but because you finally understand their true, irreplaceable value. You start to see relationships clearly. Before, you collected people, friends, acquaintances, followers. The more, the better. It was a sign of being liked, of being popular. Your life was a crowded party, loud and full of strangers. After 40, you stop collecting. You start curating. You realize that your energy is a finite resource, and it should be invested, not just spent. You begin to look at your circle not as an audience, but as a council. Who gives you strength? Who tells you the hard truth with respect? Who celebrates your victories without a hint of envy? Who would show up at 3 a.m. with no questions asked? The number shrinks dramatically. Your circle might become so small you can count them on one hand. But it is no longer a circle of acquaintances. It becomes a fortress of loyalty. Each person in it is a pillar holding you up as you hold them up. You trade the noise of the crowd for the profound, strengthening silence of true alliance. You start to see your self-worth clearly. For decades, your sense of self was outsourced. You looked for it in a partner's approval, in a boss's praise, in the number of likes on a photo. You were constantly auditioning for a role in someone else's play, hoping they would tell you that you were good enough. After 40, you bring your self-worth back home. You stop auditioning. You realize you are the writer, director, and star of your own production. The opinions of the audience are interesting, but they do not determine the value of the play. You finally understand that self-worth is not something you earn from the outside world. It is something you build, brick by brick, on the inside. It's built with every promise you keep to yourself, every time you defend your boundaries, every time you choose your own peace over someone else's drama. It becomes an internal generator, humming quietly and powerfully within you. It doesn't need external fuel anymore. It runs on self-respect. And with this, you start to understand boundaries. Before, a boundary felt like a confrontation, a wall you put up to be difficult or mean. Saying no came with a wave of guilt. I don't want to felt like an invalid reason. After 40, you see that boundaries are not walls. They are the fences around the beautiful garden of your life. They are not there to keep the world out. They are there to protect what is precious inside: your peace, your energy, your family, your focus. Saying no is no longer a declaration of war. It is an act of profound self-care. It means you have something valuable on the inside that is worth protecting. You realize that people who get angry at your boundaries are the very people who were benefiting from you having none. And their anger is not your problem to solve. It is simply confirmation that the fence was necessary. Finally, you begin to understand the true price of respect. In your youth, you confused respect with being liked. You were a nice guy, a sweet girl. You bent over backward. You avoided conflict. You swallowed your own opinions to keep the peace. You thought being agreeable was the path to being valued. After 40, you discover a brutal and liberating truth. Niceness doesn't earn respect. Strength does. Consistency does. The quiet confidence to hold your ground does. The willingness to walk away from a deal, a job, or a relationship that devalues you, that earns respect. People don't respect doormats, they use them. They respect a person who knows their own value and operates from that knowledge. This isn't about being aggressive or arrogant. It's about a calm, unshakable sense of your own sovereignty. This clarity, seeing people, time, relationships, worth, and respect for what they are, is not a sign of weakness or aging. It is the arrival of your adult strength. You have finally learned the rules of the game. You might think these are modern lessons, born from a world of self-help and psychology, but they are as old as power itself. Over 500 years ago, a man in Florence was writing down the unspoken rules of human nature and power. His name was Niccolò Machiavelli. History has painted him as a monster, a teacher of tyrants. But that's a childish reading of his work. Machiavelli was a realist, a political scientist. He didn't write about how the world should be. He wrote about how the world is. He was the first to give people permission to see reality clearly without the fog of morality or wishful thinking. And what you are beginning to understand after 40, Machiavelli understood 5 centuries ago. He wrote, "Men judge more by the eyes than by the hands." Think about what that means. For the first half of your life, you live by your hands. You engage, you feel, you listen, you trust what you are told. You believe the words, the promises, the intentions. You are hands-on with the world and you believe the story it tells you. After 40, you begin to judge with your eyes. You step back, you observe, you watch. You don't just listen to your partner say, "I love you." You watch to see if their actions show it. You don't just listen to your boss promise a promotion. You watch to see if they are creating a path for you. You don't just listen to a friend say, "I'm here for you." You watch to see if they show up when life gets hard. Your eyes begin to see the difference between appearance and reality, between the mask people wear and the face beneath. This is the Machiavellian shift. It's the move from being a hopeful participant in the game to becoming a wise observer of the board. You are no longer just a piece being moved by others. You are starting to see the entire game. And that is when everything begins to change. The main truth that changes everything. So what is it? What is this one central truth that crystallizes all of this newfound clarity? It's not complicated. It's not some mystical secret. It's brutally simple. And it is the key to your power for the second half of your life. The great truth you finally understand after 40 is this: you are the absolute sovereign of the small kingdom that is your life, and your only sacred duty is to govern it wisely. Let me explain what that means. Your life, your time, your energy, your focus, your peace, your emotional well-being is your territory. It is your kingdom. For the first 40 years, you ran it like a panicked, insecure new ruler. You governed by public opinion. You were terrified of what other kingdoms, other people, thought of you. You changed your laws, your values, to please them. You left your gates wide open. Anyone could wander in. Thieves, spies, jesters, saboteurs. They set up camp in your mind, consumed your resources, your energy, and dirtied your streets, your peace of mind. Your treasury, your finite store of time and attention, was spent lavishly on anyone who asked. You funded foreign wars, other people's dramas, while your own kingdom fell into disrepair. You were trying to be a nice ruler, a liked ruler, and so your kingdom was constantly in a state of low-grade chaos and exhaustion. After 40, you have the chance to become a wise sovereign. You understand that your first and most important duty is not to be liked by other rulers. It is to the health and prosperity of your own kingdom. This means you become the gatekeeper. You and you alone decide who gets a visa to enter your life. You assess them not on their pretty words, but on their character and their actions. Do they bring value, or do they seek to extract it? Are they allies, or are they a drain on your resources? You establish clear laws. These are your boundaries. In my kingdom, we do not tolerate disrespect. In my kingdom, we do not engage in pointless drama. In my kingdom, our time is sacred. These are not aggressive proclamations. They are the quiet, confident constitution of your life. You manage your treasury with strategic precision. Your time and energy are invested, not squandered. You invest in things that strengthen your kingdom, your health, your skills, your family, your true allies, your peace of mind. You stop funding other people's chaos. This isn't selfishness. It is the highest form of responsibility. A weak, chaotic, and depleted kingdom is of no use to anyone, not to you, not to your family, not to the world. A strong, peaceful, and well-governed kingdom, however, becomes a source of strength for others. You can only truly give from a surplus. You can only truly help from a position of strength. By becoming a wise sovereign of your own life, you stop being a victim of circumstance and become the architect of your own reality. You stop begging for a seat at other people's tables and you build your own. This is the ultimate shift in power. It moves from the outside world to the inside of you. If this is about you, write exactly in the comments. The Transformation Module. When you truly accept this truth, that you are the sovereign of your own life, the transformation is profound. It's not loud or dramatic. It's a quiet, internal revolution. First, you become calmer. The opinions of others, which once felt like storms that could capsize your ship, now feel like distant weather reports. Interesting, perhaps, but not a direct threat to your well-governed kingdom. You are the final authority on your own life, so you are no longer rattled by the gossip or judgment of those outside your walls. The desperate need for approval vanishes, and a deep, unshakable calm takes its place. Second, you become wiser. Because you are now observing with your eyes, not just listening with your ears, you see the game. You see the motives behind the flattery. You see the fear behind the aggression. You see the unspoken needs behind the complaints. You are no longer playing checkers. You are playing chess. You see the moves 3 steps ahead, not because you are a cynic, but because you understand human nature. Third, you react less to nonsense. A wise sovereign does not engage in every border skirmish. It's beneath the dignity of the throne. The petty provocations, the online arguments, the baiting comments, you see them for what they are, a desperate attempt by someone else to steal your most valuable resource, your attention. You learn the immense power of the strategic ignore. You save your energy for the battles that truly matter for the future of your kingdom. Fourth, you feel fakery faster. Your court has seen it all. You've hosted the flatterer, the user, the emotional vampire, the smiling assassin. Your intuition, long ignored, becomes a trusted advisor. When someone new enters your life, you feel their energy. You notice the tiny inconsistencies between their words and their actions. Your bullshit detector, honed by decades of experience, becomes flawlessly accurate. Fifth, you stop wasting time. This is the biggest change. Every decision is weighed against the finite resource of your time. Is this conversation a good investment of my life force? Is this job nourishing my kingdom or draining its treasury? Is this relationship an alliance or a liability? The urgency is not frantic, it is focused. It's the calm urgency of a master craftsman who knows he only has so much daylight left to complete his masterpiece. And finally, you begin to live strategically. Every yes and no becomes a strategic choice. Yes to a weekend of quiet reading is a strategic investment in your peace. No to a social obligation that drains you is a strategic defense of your energy. Yes to mentoring a younger person is a strategic contribution to the world. No to a project that doesn't align with your values is a strategic reinforcement of your own constitution. Your life stops being a series of random reactive events. It becomes a deliberate, conscious act of creation. This is what Machiavelli meant when he gave one of his most powerful pieces of advice. He said, "A wise man does at once what the fool does finally." Think about that. The fool, our younger self, waits until he is completely burned out, betrayed, and exhausted before he finally sets a boundary. He waits until the relationship is toxic beyond repair before he finally leaves. He waits until his health is failing before he finally starts taking care of himself. He does the right thing in the end, out of desperation and pain. The wise man, the 40-plus sovereign, does the right thing at once. At the first sign of disrespect, he adjusts the boundary. At the first sign of a bad investment of his time, he withdraws his energy. At the first sign that a path is leading nowhere, he changes course. He doesn't wait for a crisis. He acts from a place of strategy, foresight, and self-preservation. One acts out of pain, the other acts out of wisdom. And that is the difference between a life of constant struggle and a life of quiet, deliberate power. So look around you. Look at the life you have built. The first 40 years were not a mistake. They were not a waste. They were your apprenticeship. You were learning the terrain. You were studying the players. You were making the mistakes necessary to gain wisdom. You were serving other rulers, learning their tactics, their strengths, and their fatal flaws. But that time is over. Your apprenticeship is complete. Now is the time for your coronation. The true freedom of adulthood is not about having enough money to do whatever you want. True freedom is when you stop living with illusions. The illusion that someone else is coming to save you. The illusion that you have unlimited time. The illusion that being nice is more important than being respected. The illusion that you must earn your right to take up space in the world. After 40, you are granted the gift of shedding these illusions and seeing the truth. The truth is, you are your own savior. Your time is your most precious asset. Your respect is earned by your strength, not your compliance. And your right to exist, to have needs, and to protect your peace is absolute. This is not the beginning of the end. This is the end of the beginning. You have spent a lifetime learning the rules. Now, you get to play the game as a master. You stop living by other people's scripts and start living honestly with yourself. And in that honesty, you will find a strength, a peace, and a sense of purpose that your younger self could never have imagined. Real life doesn't end at 40. That is when it truly begins. If you agree that real life begins after 40, write how old you are and where you are from in the comments. Let's see our kingdom. Chapter 2. The Constitution of the Self. This, then, is your coronation. Not a public spectacle with trumpets and crowds, but a quiet, internal ceremony. The crown is heavy, forged not of gold, but of responsibility. The throne is not a seat of comfort, but one of judgment. Your apprenticeship is over. You have accepted that your life is a kingdom, and you are its sovereign. Now you must learn to rule. The first act of any new ruler is not to wage war or to host a feast. It is to establish the law. Before you can govern your relationships, your career, or your future, you must write the constitution for the kingdom of you. For 40 years, you lived by an unwritten, inherited code. A code handed down by society, by anxious parents, by the desperate need to fit in. Its articles were simple and destructive. Be agreeable. Don't make waves. Give people the benefit of the doubt again and again. Value the opinions of others over your own intuition. Believe that your worth is a thing to be earned in the eyes of the world. This was the constitution of the servant, not the sovereign. It was a document designed to make you easy to manage, easy to use, and easy to forget. You tear it up. Not with rage, but with the calm finality of a leader signing a decree. The sound is silent, but it echoes through the rest of your life. Your new constitution is not written on paper. It is etched into your actions. Its principles are the new bedrock of your reality. The first and most important article is this: you will trade the desire to be liked for the demand to be respected. You remember, don't you? The gnawing hunger to be liked. It was a constant, low-grade fever that dictated your every move. You were a comedian, a therapist, a chauffeur, a lending bank. You contorted yourself into whatever shape was required, hoping for a pat on the head, for the narcotic of inclusion. You collected friends the way a child collects shiny rocks, valuing quantity over quality, blind to the fact that most were just ordinary stones. Being liked is cheap. It is a currency for children and jesters. A smile, a hollow compliment, a timely agreement. It costs nothing to give and is worth even less. Respect is a different currency entirely. It is the gold standard of human interaction. It is not given freely. It is forged in the fire of consistency. It is earned through the quiet display of strength. It is conferred upon those whose words and actions are one and the same. The younger you believed that kindness would earn you respect. Now you know the truth. Kindness without strength is just subservience. Generosity without boundaries is just a resource to be exploited. People don't respect doormats, they use them. They wipe their feet and walk away without a second thought. This is the cold, hard ground of Machiavelli's world, and it is the ground on which your kingdom must be built. You learn to be kind, yes, but your kindness is now a strategic choice, not a default setting. It is a gift bestowed upon those who have proven themselves worthy of entering your gates, not a flyer handed out to every passerby. This brings you to the second article of your constitution. Your gates are governed by a visa policy, not an open-door policy. For decades, the gates to your kingdom, your time, your energy, your emotional space were wide open. Anyone could wander in. The friend who only called to complain. The family member who specialized in backhanded compliments. The colleague who offloaded their work onto your desk. They came and went as they pleased, draining the treasury and disturbing the peace of the realm. You were not a sovereign. You were a public park. No more. You become the ultimate gatekeeper. You understand that your attention is a finite and precious resource, the very lifeblood of your treasury. You begin to assess people not on their stated intentions, but on their energetic footprint. When they leave your presence, do you feel drained or energized, inspired or diminished? You develop a simple, ruthless questionnaire for anyone seeking entry, whether a new acquaintance or a long-standing ally. Do they bring value, or do they seek to extract it? Value is not just money or connections. It is wisdom, laughter, integrity, a shared moment of genuine peace. Do they respect the laws of your realm? Do they honor your time? Do they respect your no? Or do they push, wheedle, and guilt you into violating your own constitution? Are they an asset in a crisis or a liability? When the storms come, and they always come, will this person be a steady hand in your counsel or another citizen you have to rescue?
Do they speak the language of accountability or the dialect of blame? You lose all patience for victims who refuse to leave their own self-made prisons. This is not a cold or cruel process. It is the responsible administration of your life. You are curating your inner circle with the same care that a museum curator takes with a priceless collection. This is your council of advisors, your Praetorian Guard. It should be small, loyal, and formidable. You start to see the difference between an audience and an army. The audience claps when you are winning and leaves when you are not. The army bleeds with you. After 40, you have no more time for audiences. This leads to the third and perhaps most difficult article to enforce. Strategic subtraction is a necessary tool of governance. The younger you was an accumulator. You collected people, possessions, and obligations, believing that more was always better. You were terrified of endings. A friendship fading felt like a personal failure. A job ending felt like a catastrophe. The sovereign you learns the profound power of subtraction. You realize that your kingdom can be strengthened not only by what you add, but by what you remove. You begin to prune your life like a master gardener, knowing that new growth is only possible when the dead branches are cut away. You see the friend who has been coasting on a memory from 10 years ago, offering nothing to the present but nostalgia and need. You see the obligation you said yes to out of guilt, which now drains a small portion of your treasury every single week. You see the mental clutter of old resentments and past failures, tenants living in your head rent-free, and you evict them. This is not done with anger or drama. There is no need for scorched earth campaigns. Often, it is a quiet, deliberate withdrawal of energy. You stop watering the plants that bear no fruit. You let the calls go unanswered. You return the invitation with a polite, firm, and unapologetic no. Ah, the no. This becomes the seal of your sovereignty. For the first half of your life, your no was a question. No, I can't. I'm so sorry. Is that okay? It was wrapped in apologies and justifications. It was a plea for understanding. Now, your no is a statement. It is a complete sentence. No, it is not a wall built of anger. It is a drawbridge raised with calm authority. It is not a rejection of the other person. It is an affirmation of your own priorities, your own peace, your own finite time on this earth. You finally understand that every time you say yes to something you don't want, you are saying no to something you do. You are saying no to your own work, your own family, your own rest. Your no becomes the guardian of your yes.
And as you enforce this new constitution, as you demand respect, guard your gates, and practice strategic subtraction, something remarkable happens. The noise dies down. The frantic energy of people-pleasing dissipates. The drama manufactured by emotional vampires vanishes. The clutter of meaningless obligations falls away. For the first time, you can hear yourself think. In this newfound quiet, you discover the final foundational article of your constitution. Your worth is not a stock to be traded on the open market. It is an internal generator. For 40 years, you looked for your value in the reflection of other people's eyes. A promotion, a compliment, the number of likes on a post.
You were constantly auditioning for a role you thought you were supposed to play. The sovereign stops auditioning. The sovereign does the casting. You unplug from the grid of external validation. You stop asking, "What do they think of me?" and start asking, "What do I think of them?" You stop wondering if you are good enough for the room and start asking if the room is good enough for you. This is the ultimate power. It is the freedom Machiavelli wrote about, not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom that comes from seeing things exactly as they are. Seeing people for their patterns, not their potential. Seeing time for the reservoir it is. Seeing yourself not as a supplicant, but as a sovereign. Your kingdom may be small. It may consist of nothing more than a quiet apartment, a handful of true allies, a body of work you believe in, and the silent, unshakable peace of your own mind. But it is yours. The borders are secure. The treasury is stable. The ruler is wise. And from the high tower of this fortress you have built, you look out at the second half of your life, not with the frantic hope of youth, but with the calm, strategic, and deeply satisfying gaze of a king. The sun is setting on your apprenticeship. A new day is dawning on your reign.